Hello, welcome back to another video. Today is September 24th, 2022, and we are getting very, very close to the midterms, and I have not made a video in a while. So I want to go through what my predictions are going to be like here. If you're new to this area of YouTube, in 2020 I predicted every single state on the electoral level 100% correctly. I predicted pretty much margins as well. So I tend to know what I'm doing, but there's a lot of uncertainty about this election, so I wanted to give some people some sort of idea, especially since I haven't made any videos in probably since June, and a lot has also changed. So I'm going to go through what the safe states are going to be like for this election, ones you should not ever expect to go a different way. So these colors I have on North Dakota right now, that means safe Republican, that shade of red. That means 15% or more. This is likely Republican. For me, this is 7 to 14.9%. That is likely Republican. This is lean Republican, which is 2 to 6.9%. And this is tilt Republican, which is anything under 2%. And it's the same with the Democrat margins: safe, likely, lean, tilt. So I'm going to fill in the safe states real quick. And that includes North Dakota, South Dakota, Idaho, both Oklahoma elections, because now there is a special election in Oklahoma. Kentucky, Arkansas, Louisiana, because they have their jungle primaries. It would maybe be a likely state if it wasn't like 4 Republicans and like 10 Democrats running, but that's just how it is. And I might sneeze in a minute. I'm going to try and get through the rest of the Republican states. It's Alaska should be a safe state. My cat. South Carolina should be a safe state. Usually I have it as likely or lean. But Tim Scott is a very well approved of candidate. He's even a 2024 speculation candidate for president. So, and he's always outperformed Lindsey Graham by at least 5%. And I don't expect this to be any different. This is no longer a red year from the last time I made the video. It is kind of a toss-up year now. Last time I made a video, Republicans were up 2 points in the popular vote. Now they're down 2 points in the popular vote, and I can only imagine that's because of Roe v. Wade continuing to have its effect. Just last month, 300,000 women registered to vote in Texas. I'm assuming to vote Democrat for the most part. Not that that's going to change the results in the governor primary. Greg Abbott's up by a good amount, more than I would have expected him to be up by. And then we also got, on the Senate level, is there any other safe Republican states? Oh, Alaska, because the top 2 candidates are Republican. So no matter what, it's going to be a Republican. Whether it's Lisa Murkowski, which Democrats can kind of occasionally hope to get her vote on, or it's going to be this, I believe, Kelly Shabaka, which is the lady that Donald Trump endorsed, probably because Lisa Murkowski voted to impeach Donald Trump both times. So a lot of these states, a lot of people are going to be wondering why they're not safe, like Missouri, Kansas, Indiana, Utah. A lot of those are pretty much safe, but I don't feel comfortable marking it over 15%. So we're going to go through the Democrat states, and then we'll get to those. Oregon, California, New York, Vermont, and Maryland and Hawaii are the safe Democrat states. A lot, again, like some of these other states, they're a little bit under 15% in polling, approval, voting trends. And even though Democrats are up by 2, that's still less than they were up by in 2018. So I don't expect a major, or 2016, because this is the 2016 Senate map. I don't expect this to be a major difference from what it was expected by. Like Washington, for the past 5 months, Patty Murray's been up by 13% consistently. I don't see how they would be underestimating for months and months and months over and over. Not a single outlier poll has done with that. There's been a couple Republican internal polls that have had Smiley, which is Patty Murray's candidate, up by a couple percentage points. Or no, down by a couple percentage points, like 3, which would mean it's a toss-up race. But I know it's not that close. Again, I'm pretty good at analyzing the polls. Now, recently, I've even been looking into the polls and the poll sampling, and I have my own thing that I use to weigh the polls, all of that. All right. So those are all the safe states, and then we're going to do I guess we just did a likely blue, so we're going to finish the likely blue. Illinois. I've been saying for over a year that Illinois is going to be taking at least a couple points to the red side. It's still going to be a blue state for a while, but Illinois is in the most red shifting part of the country. Anywhere from Minnesota and Iowa to Pennsylvania and New York are red shifting states. It's just factual. Those states, every single toss up or red year shift so much far to the right and they don't go back. Obama won Illinois by 25%, Biden won Illinois by 15%. Although you could say Obama won Illinois by a lot because he was from there. But he mostly had that impact on Hawaii, which Obama won by 43%, and now I believe it's under 30%, which is still a heavy Democrat state, one of the top states for Democrats. And here we got Connecticut, which is, I believe there is polls saying it's going to be like a 15, 17 point win right now. But I just have to go back to the 2018 governor, or no, not governor. My bad. I'm thinking this is governor race. I still have it as that, though. Uh, I just don't see Connecticut being very well. I don't see them being enthusiastic about voting. I think most of them are bummed out by the Democrat Party right now. And a lot of them, I mean, besides the women coming back out to vote, other than that, Connecticut is not one of the most Democrat states. It's in between safe and very safe. Maryland is a 30-point state. Connecticut's a 15-point state. And I think that Connecticut's going to shift to the right by a couple percent, maybe like a 13 or 14-point win for Blumenthal. I can't remember. And we got, I believe, one more likely Senate for the Democrats, and that is Colorado. Colorado's a blue shifting state, and now what is an even year with a favorable incumbent who probably is going to reach past 50% for his first time in his race history. So I don't have any doubt about Michael Bennet winning this seat at all. And a lot of people are saying that Odia, which is his candidate, can win. And I even saw 538 write an article, but Michael Bennett's still consistently leading by double digits over and over and over. I think most people know by now Colorado's not going back anytime soon. I think there was a point where some Republicans thought they could shift it back for maybe one election, but it's too Republican to shift back. I think they were trying to hope for a Virginia miracle, like in 2021. So those are all the likely blue states, and there is a lot more likely red states, like Indiana. Polls, the only poll has shown it being a toss-up, but it wasn't that popular of a pollster. I expected it to still be around 10%, but the poll said it would be around 2 or 3%, which I just don't believe. I hope you don't hear those Discord notifications. But yeah, I just absolutely don't believe that Indiana's going to be that close, especially in a year like this. And it's not really going to be a state that's heavily affected by the Roe v. Wade thing because they're already pretty red as it is, and they're also in that red shifting area, which reminds me, I'm also going to be putting Iowa as likely. Again, I'm not listening to the polls here. Some people would say it's stupid, but I expect the Republicans to do better in certain areas that polls are showing them not doing that good in. Iowa, I have them winning by around 12%. Polls show 6%. Iowa loves Chuck Grassley, and Michael Franken is falling behind from what he was a couple months ago. So, even though I don't know, it's a pretty white state, I don't I don't see Democrats winning the white vote anytime soon. Just that alone is enough for me to call it as a red state. But we'll see. We'll see how Iowa votes. I think it's going to be closer on the governor level, to be honest. Maybe around 7%. Maybe the opposing candidate and the governor race can put up some sort of a fight. Maybe bring it within 5%. And that would be pretty impressive for Iowa. I think a lot of Democrats would be happy with that. I mean, obviously, Democrats in Iowa want it to be blue, and they think it can go blue, but it's not going to happen. Iowa's long gone for the Democratic Party. So is Missouri, which, if any of you have heard of the show The Ozark, oops, sorry, my microphone isn't that close. If any of you have heard about the movie The Ozark, or no, the show The Ozark on Netflix, they, over the entire course of the show, they have one lady that's interested in getting into politics, and they live in Missouri. And over the entire series, I was getting furious because they kept saying that Missouri was a bellwether state or a purple state. And this show was made fairly recently, so it was just peeving me. It was making me a little angry. Uh, it shouldn't. It's just a show. But that has gotten me into Missouri politics a lot more. I've learned a lot more about their history and voting. I know more about their voting trends. And as of right now, I still see them staying in between. Bush Valentine was a very good candidate for the Democrats to pick, and I do think that I already forgot his name because he's not the candidate, but I already forgot. I did think that if Missouri was to elect uh, that one guy that Donald Trump was probably going to endorse originally as a Senate candidate, that it could have been a toss-up race. Now there's a much better candidate in the Missouri Senate race, and I don't see it being anything closer than 10%. And Bush Valentine is still a very good candidate. They should have probably ran for governor. I think they could have won that, but I don't know. I'm a lot of Democrats should be fairly happy with the results in Missouri as well. There's going to be a lot of ups and downs for both parties this year. So another likely state, Kansas. Uh, it's just, Kansas isn't as strong a Republican as the others, and I don't feel like dwelling all of my time on Kansas, so I'm not going to get involved in it. And I believe the second and last likely Republican state would be Utah. Utah. Uh, there is a candidate right now who is running under independent, but Democrats have backed them up to run. And let me see. Yeah, Evan McMullin. Evan McMullin is running in Utah as an independent who has all the Democrat support. And the last couple polls, which are good pollsters, by the way, especially, and they were even based in Utah, have McMullin trailing by 3%, and neither candidate can crack 40%. So honestly, it's going to come up to the independent vote. And the independent vote in Utah usually leans to the right, but not when there's an Evan McMullin running. So I think a lot of Democrats could be very pleased with this, and I don't expect Evan McMullin to be like a Democratic senator, but I expect him to be one of those more swing votes in a red state, like Lisa Murkowski or Mitt Romney, which is also in Utah. So I don't know. I'm extremely excited to see what Utah does because Utah is also a back and forth state on its shifts. It was like a 40-point state at the beginning of the decade. Now it's like a 20-point state. It is shifting fast, and it is gaining a lot of people. So I don't know. I absolutely can't wait to see if Evan McMullin can pull off a win in a state like this. Not because I'm a Democrat, and most people who've ever watched this know I'm a Democrat, but I just think it's going to be really entertaining to see what can happen here. No Democrat running means that guy has almost no negative uh, insinuations about him. I'm going too long on Utah, so we're gonna switch to the last likely Republican state, which is Florida. Uh, Val Demings might be beating Marco Rubio in donations overall, but she is doing worse even in grassroots votings than Marco Rubio in Florida donations. Marco Rubio can get all of that northern Florida vote just to begin with, and he does way better in Latinos than any other candidate really has in Florida in years. Uh, and his last election in 2016 was by like 8%. I see him winning this around 7. At the very, I think it can be a lean state, but he's not going to lose it by. He's not going to win it by less than 5, or by more than by less than 5, and he's not going to lose the state at all. Uh, Val Demings might be a good candidate generally, but not anymore. She could have been like she would have been a very good candidate in 2018, before Florida made its final shift towards the Republicans, and I don't see it going back anytime soon either. And a lot of people are going to have issues with that. Just deal with it. Now we're going to move to some of the lean states. For me, that includes New Hampshire for the Democratic Party. Uh, right now, Maggie Hassan is supposed to win the state by around 10%. But Dan Bullock, I think, with Chris Sununu's vivid support, can do a little bit better than expected. And he's a pretty good candidate as well. And it's just New Hampshire doesn't really have the most exciting politics. You can usually tell how it's going to vote before anything happens. Um, and it's never truly a toss up. You can always tell by the polls. It has decently accurate polls. Maggie San is a favorited senator as well. I don't see it going any other way. Another lean blue state, which is going to be our first. Everything else here is a toss up. It could go either way. And this is where everyone's going to be watching these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 states. There's almost always exactly 7 states in every election that everyone has to watch. Because if Democrats won all of these, they'd have a huge Senate boost. If Republicans won all of these, they'd probably have almost 60 Senate seats by the end of 2024. So Democrats need to do some defense and some gaining here. They need to defend. They need to defend Arizona. Mark Kelly, who's well favored in Arizona, he's the much more favorable of the two senators, and Blake Masters might be rising a couple points in the polls. I don't see it standing. Blake Masters, as long as he's endorsed by Donald Trump, he's probably not going to win. Donald Trump candidates do not do well in Arizona. It's just a fact. Not what was that lady's name who ran against Kirsten Sinema and Mark Kelly? I don't even remember. Martha McSally. She was a Trump candidate, couldn't win any of her races. Yeah, and then Gabby Giffords, I believe, was also a candidate that won in Arizona against a Trump candidate. It's really one of the only moderate Republican states left. And I think as long as the Republicans keep playing the heavy right wing view, Arizona's going to shift to the left without even knowing it. Because right now, I still think they're a moderate right state. But moderate right now is independent. So I don't know. I'm excited to see what happens there. And our first flip of this prediction will be Pennsylvania. Dr. Ahas is inexperienced. He's a moron. Everything that comes out of his mouth is stupid. He's too far right. He doesn't even live in Pennsylvania. John Fetterman, who is his candidate, is a extremely well candidate who's almost always winning by 5+ points in the polls, outperforming Joe Biden constantly in the polls. And there was points where he was leading by double digits every now and then. So the race might have narrowed up every like there's a little points that come up every month or two. I apologize for stuttering. But Pennsylvania, nonetheless, is probably going to vote for John Fetterman by, my guess right now is going to be 3.2%. No specific reason. I just see it being a 2-point outcome over Joe Biden. So I don't know. No one really knows. I don't know why I keep saying that. I don't think I have any lean Democrat states left, so we're going to go to the 2 lean Republican seat. No, the 1 lean Republican seat. I think it's going to be, North Carolina. Ted Budd has just done. I'm surprised the race came back as it did. There was a point where he was leading by 5 points consistently. Then it narrowed up, and now he's winning by another point or two every time. The last poll has Sherry Beasley winning, but and the average is Bud up by 0.3%. But Bud has won, besides the last poll, he won the 3 before that by over 2%. And then Beasley won that one before that, and before that it was a Republican poll. Beasley was up before that, the John Locke Foundation for the Republican Party. Had it as a tie race. Beasley up 4 before that, and Beasley up 2 before that. Everything else before that is Budd up. So there was a good month where Beasley was almost always leading, but polls, as we know, are not always the most reliable. And with Emerson College and public policy polling having just A plus polls, every A pollster has the race within Budd winning within 3% or losing by 1. And I think that's just a significant uh, implication that Ted Budd is going to win by a point or two. He's also experienced. Not that Sherry Beasley isn't, but Ted Budd is way more experienced and more well known in the North Carolina community. And North Carolina didn't. If North Carolina didn't vote blue on any statewide race besides the governor race in 2020, I don't see a damn way that I can flip in 2022. I used to really hope that I would do that, but I don't think that's going to happen. So now we have only tilt states left. Can you guess which ones are which? Probably not, because these are very weird predictions here. Well, actually, I mean, they're fairly standard. I was going to make a video a month ago, and I would have had Tim Ryan winning Ohio. He was leading by 5, 10 points every time. And it was so entertaining to see Tim Ryan leading against an unfavored candidate that Donald Trump supported. But out of the past 4 polls, J.D. Vance, which is the Republican opponent to Tim Ryan, is up by 1. Then Ryan won by 3 in the one before that. Then Vance was up by 4 and 3 before that. And so this month, Vance is up by 2% in the average. Just in, oh, wait, 7. Vance is actually up. No, okay. No, I didn't see how many. Okay, technically, Tim Ryan is up on the average for September. But that doesn't mean anything because Tim Ryan was leading by 9 points at the end of August. And right now, the average is J.D. Vance up. So, I don't know. I have no idea how Ohio is going to go. I want dozens of new polls. I want like 5 polls a day by the end of next month because we're getting very, very close to this race. And there's, I believe, only 47 days left. And our last lean Republican state, so yes, that does imply that Democrats are going to win the Senate here. I think most people expect that to be the way things go out. I expect Wisconsin to be a tilt state. Again, I also used to have this state as a blue state. I had Democrats winning 53 Senate seats about a month ago. And that was just me being foolish and heavily listening to the polls and thinking that Democrats were going to win the popular vote by more than they are showing off right now. Although there was a poll where Democrats were up in the popular vote by 12%. That was a bad poll, though. And it implies a lot of wishful thinking and forecast changes that aren't going to happen, especially under 538. They tend to be fairly incorrect. Ron Johnson is not a favorite candidate. In fact, he's one of the only Republican candidates that are incumbent in these upcoming key races that are running for re-election. Because in Missouri, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, they're all under retired Republicans who are running. And finally, these last 2 states I have as tilt Democrat. Nevada, through the summer, started going back into the Democrat column, and I never really changed it from Democrat to Republican, even when Republicans were leading, because I knew that Democrats were going to have at least a sort of summer bounce back, which they did. And they did in 2020 as well. There was a point where Joe Biden was leading in the Texas average in 2020. So I thought that was, I think that's just a good example of how bad the polling is in the summer. And I expect Nevada to vote blue still, but by the very thinnest of margins. Nevada is extremely close in the polls now. Like the candidate, Adam Laxalt, is apparently a good candidate, which I didn't expect to be happening. He might not be dumb or anything like a lot of the other candidates, like Herschel Walker, J.D. Vance, Ron Johnson, pretty much every candidate in every other state. Adam Laxalt might be one of the best. He is the best candidate in a swing state right now. So expected this to go either way. Democrats, if you want to win the Senate or gain a seat, you need to win Nevada, because you're not going to win Pennsylvania and Wisconsin and lose Nevada, although that is probably possible. And if Ohio's at some point, if I change my point on Ohio at some point, I'll make a video as soon as I can about that. And our last state is Georgia, which every time Herschel Walker opens his mouth, things go bad for him. He goes down like 3 points in the polls. And I'm actually curious. Herschel Walker. He's a football player. He's not even an experienced. Herschel Walker says he's not that smart. You don't go as a candidate. And I was literally searching to see if he's going to do a debate. Yeah, he's going to a debate with Warnock. He says I'm not that smart and I'll do my best in his debate. Who does that? I thought Republicans are supposed to act like they're smart all the time. All right, I don't want to get too personal, but Herschel Walker might be the worst candidate in any of these races. I would trust Dr. Oz running my state more than I would Herschel Walker. And honestly, I would definitely prefer even maybe Ron Johnson, and I don't like that guy one bit. So I don't know. Republicans normally in a year like this would win 5 Senate seats, or would gain 5 Senate seats, but when they run candidates like this and they keep going in that direction, they might get more loyal voters, but they're not going to, in the end, have more voters. They're just going to have more loyal voters. So that was my very long prediction, my 26-minute prediction to the midterm elections this year. Less than 50 days left. I'll probably be back with more predictions in the middle of October. So thank you so much for watching. I'm going to upload a governor prediction later. Have a good day.